This is episode 103 of Standing Out. Standing Out is a remarkable interview style podcast with the intention to highlight women and men making outstanding contributions in their field. Today, I'd like to welcome Carolyn Herfurth. When accomplished business owners begin to wonder what else or what's next, they call New York-based Reinvention strategist Carolyn Herfurth. Having played a hand in hundreds of renovations, both big and small, with service-based entrepreneurs, Carolyn is the needle-in-a-haystack thought partner who insists that nobody puts baby in the corner when it comes to living up your greatest vision. So she swoops in, minus Swayze's abs, to get your ass on the dance floor where you belong by linking your universe of past experiences with your custom strategy to create more meaning and more money. Alongside her work with a handful of private strategy clients, Carolyn has a blast hosting her Burn The Bullshit podcast to talk about the messy bits we face as business owners and to quench her party-throwing thirst. She loves hosting live retreats for small groups of select hand-picked women to breathe new perspective, energy, and life into their businesses. Carolyn, thanks for being here.
That might be the longest intro ever, and
so
we might need to edit that thing down.
And as someone whose favorite movie is Dirty Dancing, please keep that part. It's amazing.
You got the reference. I love it.
It's so good. How did you get your start in this space?
You know, I had right out of corporate. So I was with Oracle, and then I bought a franchise over 16 years ago. So that's really where I started. And I played a hand in the launch of over 100 businesses. And then I started watching my clients really struggle with sales because they were coming out of corporate and they're starting up a business. As you know, business requires selling. And I watched them struggle, and I thought, oh, I could teach them how to sell, but I can't do both. I can't help people start businesses and sell. So I walked away from my franchise business to start a sales training company. And that evolved into people don't even have the right offers. So I went back to business design, which was actually part of the franchise world. And it all kind of coalesced into what I do today.
What is it that business owners have such a struggle in selling? Like, why is that a thing, a big thing that everyone struggles with?
That's a great question. And really, it took me a long time to figure that out. I work primarily with people who run service-based businesses. It's their baby. When you talk about putting baby in the corner, it is their thing, and it feels very vulnerable. So if I go out and say, do you want to buy my thing that I deliver, this service I deliver, and you say no, then I feel like you're rejecting me. So there's a vulnerability that goes with it. And people don't necessarily put that together. I mean, I had been winning President's Club trips when I was in corporate America for my sales abilities. And when I started my first business, I couldn't sell myself to save my life. And I didn't get, how could I sell Oracle software, but I couldn't sell myself? What's the difference? And so that it's that piece is a really huge part of it.
How do you go through that journey of, it's not like, or I guess, how do you go through that journey to then be able to sell? Is it all the way back from redesigning those packages, knowing your value and knowing how to have the conversation? Or is it more like self-work of like confidence work and things like that? Or both, everything?
All of the above. All of the above. I start by looking at, okay, what's your offer? Or what are your offers and how do they fit together? Because, you know, I look at a business model in terms of what's the level of touch you have and how does what you really want to be selling and delivering, what's leading into that? What's leading up to that? And so I always start with the business model and the value of each product or service within that business model. Because a lot of people don't even know how to articulate what their true value is or what problem they're solving. So I like to get down to that, the value. And then we look at, okay, now what's the best way to price it and package it? Because, you know, I just did a session with a client last week where she's been selling retainer services for years. And finally she got to this point where she's like, oh my gosh, I just don't want to sell it this way anymore. And literally in less than an hour, we looked at how can we redesign the offer, not what you're delivering, but the offer so that you are happy earning what you're earning. You're getting decisions more quickly. You're getting exactly the right clients. How can we do that? And so, looking at how we could price, and that plays into the sales conversation. So,
Right.
it's all meshed together. But then you ask that part B of your question, which is, or is it kind of what's between your ears?
Right.
Totally. Like that totally plays. We have so much bullshit
So much voice
that
in
we,
my head. Like,
oh my God, it's crazy. Like myself included. I
Yeah.
mean, I have all sorts of bullshit. I
Yeah.
hope I can say that on
Yeah,
your
you're
show.
fine. All
And
good.
and so it's truly like it is such a so that's a really important part also of the work that I do, is helping people see it and own it and just go, oh, okay, all right, great, okay, thanks, let's move on.
Yes. I had a friend tell me, I was sharing a perspective of how I'm a horrible person and a horrible business owner because I couldn't close this client, right? And she's like, well, that's an interesting story you just made up. Like, did anyone say any of that? I'm like, yeah, no, none of that actually happened.
Yes, it is
quite robust in my
insane.
head, though. Yeah.
Yeah, we're very good at that.
Right. It's interesting. So I own a marketing agency, and I think in the marketing world, especially in digital, like you can go down so many different paths and sell so many different things. And that was one thing I really struggled with for a long time, is honing in, like, what exactly do we offer in what time frame, and how does that become sort of like a package, so to speak? And I feel like a lot of business owners really struggle with that. They're like, well, yeah, we can do any of this in this whole universe that we're in. Do you see that too?
All the time. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I have a client who is a career coach. She's been a client for many years. She keeps saying, I hate resumes. It's the thing that she seriously will under deliver to the extreme. It's embarrassing to her that she does that, because she cannot fulfill when she tells someone she'll do a resume. But then when she's talking to someone, she's like, oh, sure, I'll do your resume, even though she hates it. So we finally, it's taken forever to get her to just go, stop doing resumes. There are a million people out there who you can subcontract that to.
Yeah.
Oversee the project, and then your client will be happy. But instead, she spent years undisneying, which is like over promising, under delivering this. And so I see it all the time. And why not do all the good bits? Like, that's what I love about the work I do now. It's like the reinvention of, how do we get rid of all that old crap? And how do we take the best parts of you and the things that juice you up the most, and create a really exciting business for you that just feels like butter. So
yeah. No, that's awesome. And I find like a lot of my entrepreneurial friends, once they get to like certain revenue levels or kind of meet those goals that they set for themselves, they're not in love with the way the business was set up, but then they kind of keep on trucking down that avenue because that's what got them to the goal. And I love this reinvention piece because it doesn't have to be that, there's
totally
a lot of ways to do it.
And here's the thing, Katrina, it's really scary because I've been there myself. I've gone through many reinventions myself. What's scary is walking away from what's been working, even if it doesn't work in your heart anymore. Sure. And you're less challenged and you don't have the fulfillment or the meaning that it once created for you and once fulfilled. It's really hard walking away from a line of business that might generate 6 figures or multiple 6 figures or 7 figures for that matter. And I've done it so many times and it's terrifying every time. And that's the other thing that I really love working on with my reinvention clients, is dealing with the resistance and what's behind that and what's the bullshit story that you're telling yourself. But then also the practical part of, all right, if that's generating $250,000 for you and it's something that you need to walk away from, how do we quickly bring in something that's going to bring in the fulfillment and create the contribution and the value that people really want? So that's like the fun dance I get to do every day.
What is something that you would consider a rookie mistake you made? Like lessons learned, share one.
I thought it was about me, everything, all the time. I will say I had my franchise business for 7 years, and then about 9 years ago. I don't even know how long it was. I started this business, my Carolyn Herfurth business, doing sales and business coaching. And I've evolved into Reinventions. I've done all sorts of stuff along the way. But I will say, when I left my franchise to start this business, I really thought it was about me. I really was so obsessed with myself and making money. And I kind of brought some I brought some bad habits, and I acquired some bad habits that I think mostly were not client centric. Gotcha. And so that, I mean, it's embarrassing almost to admit, because it wasn't an integrity. But once and a lot of it had to do with who I was coaching with, that's sure. Kind of how I perceived them. And I thought that's what you have to do to be successful. And that's probably not even how they did it. But again, that was my story. Right. And there's that desperation mode sometimes when you're starting out and you're like, I got to make this work. And, me. And it's just so ridiculous.
So many of us face that. So thanks for sharing. What would you say is the best piece of advice you've ever been given? Or what advice, what is one of your favorite pieces of advice that you give the clients and people in your network?
I don't know that I have some awesome little, here's the catchy phrase you can use.
Right, on an Instagram thing, all pretty.
Yes. So one of my favorite quotes is from Gary Liu, which is, "This is your world, shape it or someone else will." And I really resonates with me. And then Kobe Yamada also says, "Take the leap and build your wings on the way down." And I'm a huge fan of taking risks and dares that feel uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And I will go back to another mistake I've made is I've taken a lot of risks in my professional career and my entrepreneurial time is 16 plus years. And sometimes it's really nice to start feeling comfortable. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm making all this money. It's so great. I'm just going to milk this until the cows come home. And that is truly that's danger. That's the danger zone right there. Because if you don't start figuring out a way to grow yourself beyond that thing, then the universe will do it for you. The market will do it for you. They will find a way to push your ass out. So
the universe is so amazing at that, of get out there, do something else. This is status quo now, right?
Yeah.
What are you seeing as far as trends in your industry, or things that are on your radar that you think we'll all be talking about in another year or two from now as sort of a hot topic?
Well, one is, I agree with my friend Patty Lennon, who I think you also know, who says that the coaching bubble is about to burst. And we've spent a lot of time talking about it. She just did a much better job writing about it because she comes from finance, and she compared it to the housing bubble and so I really believe you can't just put your $10,000 offer out there and do some glittery, glitzy marketing around it and think that people are going to buy it. Consumers and business owners are way too smart, and they've been burned way too many times. So I think it's going to be harder to build a business unless you really have your business model down, unless you really are a thought leader and have an original point of view, unless you really can handle the mindset stuff and know how to sell. And that's why I just feel like I'm preparing all of my clients to be in that position.
Yeah, I've definitely heard that with the coaching space. And I don't know nearly as much as you and Patty on this space, but I kind of feel it. You know what I mean? You just have that feeling of when I'm talking to someone, usually they refer to it as like an industry oversaturation or lack of differentiation. They think terms like that often are now associated with the industry. So I think definitely being ready to pivot is for any of those coaches is probably a good thing to be looking at now.
Yeah. Well, and the sad thing is there are a lot of coaches out there telling inexperienced business people to charge high ticket prices. And that's, I think, it's like, oh, you can charge high ticket prices like me. And I'm like, but you have 16 years of experience and this person has like 2. So how, and it's not just years of experience, but I just really think it was abused, and it's got to stop.
Yeah. No, that's a good thing to put on your radar. What else is good? Well, one, I want to congratulate you on your podcast. That's exciting.
Oh, thank you. Yes. I love it. I totally love it. Burn the Bullshit. I just dropped season 1 of like a month or so ago. And then I went off to Portugal. And,
you're like Beyonce. Drop an album. That's so cool.
That's right. I dropped it. So I did that. I've got season 2 coming out in January this month. So I'm really excited about it. And I'm just like, I know I'm a sprinter, not a marathoner. So it's easier for me to do projects and, but Burn the Bullshit, the feedback I've gotten has been so amazing. What I found interesting is that it's been behind the scenes feedback. So people are what that tells me is people are still afraid to admit that they have bullshit, which is so fascinating to me. Like, I'm literally inviting on successful businesswomen to talk about specific blocks and blind spots that they overcame in order to be successful. And they're like laying it all out there, talking about bankruptcies and, all of this stuff. And then everyone else listening is like, oh my God, that's so amazing. But it's like this behind the scenes type of, wow, that's really cool. I really resonated with that. I'm like, okay. But you know what? Maybe the longer they listen to it, the braver they'll get and more willing to share their own bullshit.
I think there's a lot of that. I feel like that's how it always starts. Once you start realizing you're not the only one with whatever mess it was, I think people do start to get braver. So thanks for doing the work in that space.
Thank you. Yeah. Yep.
Carolyn, thanks for being here. It was a pleasure.
Great job. Thank you, Katrina.
You're welcome.